We've undertaken the most substantial border security measures in a generation.
It is a chilling message to thousands of refugees around the world who are trying to reach safe haven in the United States.
Extreme vetting will be put in place.
You know, I've been vetted 5 times.
But to those who have been through the arduous refugee process that has taken years,
They know everything about me.
the president's call for a ban on refugees has created confusion and fear,
What's going to happen next?
especially among those who call Americans friends. Those who have spent years in refugee camps and who still have family members trying to gain refugee status know there is no choice.
They are controlling the people. They give you a choice. Fight with us or we will kill you.
Currently, more than 2,000 refugees from around the world come to Colorado from war-torn countries every year, with many settling in Greeley, Colorado Springs, and the greater Denver area. They are able to learn English and develop skills to help them thrive in the United States with the help of resettlement agencies. Most come from Iraq, Burma, and Afghanistan.
It's scary. We call everybody, are you okay, are you okay?
For those who have already come to Colorado and made a new life, working hard for the American dream, there is compassion for those now in limbo.
We are human beings that just looking for a place to be safe.
But now, President Trump has cut in half the number of refugees allowed into the U.S. Good evening, I'm John Ferrugia. Welcome to Insight. Colorado has long welcomed refugees. Since 1980, more than 57,000 people from dozens of countries have resettled in Colorado, adding to both the diversity and to the economy of our state. Correspondent Lori Jane Glia begins our report with the story of 2 families who escaped their war-torn country several years ago and have created new lives here in Colorado.
After hours, when the sun has already gone down, Yasser Hussein and his son Mustafa go to work. They run a family business cleaning restaurant kitchen hoods, a dirty job, but it's one they're happy to do. The income from this business helped their family of 7 purchase and move into a new home.
You see, this is my dream, because I lost my home in Iraq. So my dream to bring my home again.
During the early 2000s, home for this family was Baghdad, Iraq, where they witnessed daily bombings and feared for their lives.
It's scary. We worry when we hear something happen in this area. We call everybody, are you okay, are you okay, you're still alive?
Mom, Huda, tried to protect her 4 kids at the time, all of whom were younger than 13.
Nobody know anything funny about any childhood, just the gun, kill, bomb, die, blood.
I slept multiple nights just under the bed because I didn't want to even leave.
21-year-old Ahmad remembers huddling in fear as a preteen in a cramped room with his family with no electricity and little certainty they would survive.
A couple of my friends died, a couple of them left, a couple of them went missing. Nobody knows what happened to them.
I scared for my family. My wife, she's scared. My kids, they cry all the time.
Finally, the day came when the family could take no more. 2 of Yasser's brothers had been murdered, and a letter arrived, threatening his life too.
So your father said, you're the only son I have left.
Yep. So
leave.
Leave. Don't stay here. Take your family and leave. So I just left with the 20 bucks in my pocket, with 4 kids and my wife.
The tight-knit family fled first to Syria, then Lebanon, where they stayed for nearly 3 years. During that time, security officials, starting with the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, combed through every detail of their personal lives, collecting biometric data. Eventually, U.S. security and intelligence agencies screened them for connections to crime and terrorism, all for the possibility of eventually resettling in the United States.
Yeah, to go through finger, to check about your background, your eyes. Immigration know everything.
In 2009, they were among 300 Iraqis who arrived in Colorado, a faraway place with a foreign culture and language.
What was your opinion of the United States at that time?
Scared. I scared to come in, and I happy to come in. It's both together in the same time.
It's totally different. The time, weather, language, religion.
New culture, tradition, clothing, food, everything.
Ahmad and his eldest siblings are now attending college.
I got my algebra classes, my programming class.
And the youngest, born here, has a bright future ahead. All are U.S. citizens with a unique perspective on what it means to be a refugee in pursuit of the American dream.
But refugees are the people that are looking into better things, looking into how to get out of the darkness that they're in, trying to make jobs for themselves, basically be happy.
Refugee is not bad. Refugee is people. They have a dream, they have home, they have work, they have car, they have family. But they lost it for some reason, not our fault. I lost my home, I lost my brother, but it's not my fault.
Are you happy?
Yeah, now. Before, but now, yeah.
His is one of the first faces visitors encounter at the state capitol. A trusted security guard for the Colorado State Patrol. It's a position Gatwich Dengpatot is proud and thankful to have.
There you go, thank you.
Considering he wasn't certain he would even live beyond his teenaged years.
What I used to say back then, that I'm leaving to die tomorrow. I just only pray to God that, I see light today and then tomorrow I may not see another light.
He arrived here as a refugee in 2001 after Sudan's devastating civil war left him malnourished, searching for food, and constantly confronted by death.
I saw some relatives and neighbors that died of starvation, and then the wild animal hyenas and, dogs feed on them.
These are more current images of South Sudan, but the conditions were similar when Gatwich was a boy and his family fled to Ethiopia on foot. At times, he found himself separated from the elders, leading a group of small children through dangerous swamps and rivers, alone.
Every time I think about that moment, God, I didn't want to lose those kids under my watch, and that's what hurt me the most.
The trek to the refugee camp lasted 2 months, and he endured another 5 years there before learning the United States would accept his family as refugees.
It was the most beautiful things in my life because we have waited for so long. What do you want to show me?
Gatwich's life has flourished since he arrived in Colorado.
A bit careful so you don't fall.
He has 2 children now who attend school in Denver.
How was your day today?
And he's built a happy life at home with his wife.
Look at my old friend.
With guidance from the African Community Center, a refugee support agency, he improved his English,
Everything is good, so.
graduated from high school and college, and became a United States citizen.
What do you think is the most important thing for Americans to know about you as a refugee?
The most important thing is I'm just like any other American that just happened to be born in a very chaotic country.
The dinner is ready.
We are human beings that just looking for a place to be safe.
Although the road to find this safe place has already lasted decades, his journey is far from over. His American dream has only just begun.
It's a beehive of cultures, languages, and colors. Even the name Mango House conjures an image and the flavor of another place. Yet it sits just north of Colfax in Aurora.
Wow, there's people playing foosball, and more than anything, there's the sound of community being built amongst students and amongst the volunteers here.
Its single mission, to serve as a haven for Colorado refugees who were forced to flee their homeland. Most have lived in wretched conditions, in fear for their lives, and have brought little to nothing with them. They are culturally disoriented. Everything is foreign. Mango House is among the first real experience of community they have in Colorado. There's a dental clinic, a food bank,
This is our camping gear, sleeping bags, tents.
even a refugee-only Boy Scout troop. On any given day, 250 people walk through the front door.
When I finished residency, I was looking for a place where my skills could be used in this community to the greatest need.
Mango House is the vision of Dr. P.J. Parmar.
There's not enough people out there doing this kind of work.
His Ardas medical clinic is at the core of it all.
Money's not the number one priority.
It books about 1,200 appointments a month.
I prefer to do work in an underserved community, and you don't have to go overseas for that. There's opportunities right here.
Profit is generated entirely from Medicaid reimbursements, and client referrals are all through word of mouth. He says the money gets funneled back into the various Mango House programs to ensure continuity. Nara Baral and her family heard about Mango House through a fellow refugee when Nara arrived in Colorado 7 years ago. After fleeing ethnic cleansing in Bhutan, she spent 20 years at a refugee camp in Nepal before finally coming to the U.S., where she became a naturalized citizen in August.
Mango House is really good for us. If there is no Mango House, like all refugees, they will be in like real trouble.
But in contrast to the cultural outreach, there are clearly those who are not happy about refugees settling in the area. The day Nara attended her baby's medical appointment, she says she had an uncomfortable encounter at work.
One guy, he came to me and then he said, "You're immigrant. Why Donald Trump, he didn't send you to you in your country?" See? And I was feeling really bad, and I said, "I am not an immigrant. I am an American citizen now."
It's a scenario Dr. Parmar, the son of Indian immigrants, understands.
I know that when they step outside of their safe community here and go into stores and go into an airport, that they're getting that same scrutiny.
And there is concern at Mango House that the anti-refugee sentiment, now felt in many parts of the country, could turn deadly. In January, a tenant found notes threatening to blow up the building.
It created a lot of alarm among the tenants in this building as far as our own security.
The FBI and Aurora police are investigating, and there has been an outpouring of support from the community. And donated surveillance cameras are now being installed.
I'm not scared of this at all because it's not done by somebody actually intending to do it. It's tied into the current political atmosphere. If someone wants to blow up the building, they're just going to blow it up.
He says it's not refugees that Americans should be worried about.
They've been vetted in every possible way. I don't know what additional parameter you could add.
Going camping tonight. We're going to Wyoming.
Today, the concern is not a bomb scare,
Chat pate fixings.
but getting his all-refugee Boy Scout troop prepped for the weekend trip.
You're all going to cook real food.
And that also means stocking up at a nearby Nepali grocery market.
It's kind of encouraging them, hey, stick with your culture. You don't have to go buy a bunch of American food when you're going camping.
He says when refugees integrate into American culture, they shouldn't lose their own.
It takes courage to think in a different way, broaden your horizon, and these folks are here as an opportunity to do that. The refugees are here, and some of the most recent arrival ones are the ones who might best broaden your horizon.
How are you?
Good, thank you. It is 6 p.m. on a Monday night, and after a long day at work, Abdul Al-Kire and his wife Fatima arrive for their twice-weekly English class at Mango House.
You know how to say that one?
They have been in the U.S. only a few months and come here not only to learn,
My name is Tibi.
but to connect with other refugees and share their family story with those who share the same hopes and the same fears. They live in a cramped Aurora apartment, working at entry-level jobs cleaning hotel rooms, supporting 3 of their 4 children, all who are now attending school and English classes.
We're here to protect our family's future.
And that means at 60, starting over in a new country.
We are going to pay a higher price. It will be harder for us, but the reward will be our children's education.
It is a welcome concern for the family because they are now safe from the war that has ripped apart their native Syria. The sectarian violence became so intense in their city of Homs, they knew they were in danger.
The fight is between 2 groups in Syria, and they are controlling the people. They give you a choice. Fight with us, or we will kill you. So our choice, are you going to stay, or are you going to leave?
The family, including Abdul and Fatima's married daughter, son-in-law, and 2 small children, made their way to Jordan, where they spent 4 years, first in a refugee camp and then in Amman. After intense screening, they were finally accepted by the U.S., but that didn't include their married daughter and her family.
Everybody in this world. It doesn't matter who you are. You're going to miss your family very much.
And they fear the president's executive order and hard line on refugees will only make things worse.
We thought maybe they could come, but after the order, we don't know what is going to happen. I have lost hope.
It is the small screen of this cell phone that provides the vital link, holding their family close. Several times a week, they connect with their daughter, whose family remains in a refugee camp south of Jordan's capital city.
When the ban happened, we lost hope of reunited with our family.
Their son-in-law, Ahmed, says his family is now without a country.
We left Syria together, and we don't have anybody else here as relatives.
And he says he believes the world is now immune to the suffering of millions of families like his who are separated and isolated.
We are humans. We feel are not treated like humans anymore. Our suffering is very common now. It's something they used to.
Bye. For Abdul and Fatima and their family, the yearning for reunion overrides even the safety they now enjoy in Colorado. They look forward to the day when they might return to their native home, a day they know may never come.
Right now, the war is going on. There's simply no security, and we can't go back. But if peace comes back to Syria, there's no doubt we would go back.
I've worked a great deal in helping out the U.S. government and helping out the U.S. military.
In Baghdad, Waleed Sharif worked at the U.S. Embassy, garnering awards and respect from the U.S. ambassador and the senior military officers who he sometimes accompanied into the field.
You know, I've been vetted 5 times, since I've worked in the U.S. Embassy. Definitely, they know everything about me and about my family and where I've worked since I was born.
He arrived in Colorado 2 months ago with his family as a refugee from Iraq. He shares a 1-bedroom apartment in Aurora with his youngest daughter and his 81-year-old mother. He left Iraq because he felt too many people in his neighborhood might have found out that he worked with the Americans, and that was dangerous.
Even your neighbors, they can't know that you work with the embassy because that meant an insecurity for your family.
You could get targeted.
Yeah, yes. Your family might be, one of your family members might be kidnapped, or you could be targeted, or, anything can happen.
So you had to go in secret, really?
Yes, exactly.
So your neighbors didn't know you were?
No, nobody knew.
That was Joe Biden visiting troops.
But even for this man who greeted the vice president at the embassy in Baghdad, it took almost 10 years to make it to the U.S.
Well, I applied in 2007.
His family arrived only about a week before the initial presidential travel ban aimed at Iraq and 6 other countries.
I've just arrived. I'm a legal sort of refugee here in this country. And, what's going to happen next?
Even now, after the president has removed Iraq from the travel ban, Waleed is concerned for the U.S. troops and staff still in Iraq because he says the president has already implied that Iraqis may be a threat to U.S. security.
Because a lot of the U.S. folks that are there in Iraq are trying their best to establish a secure Iraq,
Through trust.
Through trust. Yeah, they cannot do it themselves. They'll have to work with the locals and establish that trust between them to be able to achieve something.
And what does the ban do?
It doesn't. It breaks that trust.
His life now is caring for the immediate needs of his family. On this day at Mango House, his daughter is receiving dental care, while in the waiting room, this university graduate and professional in economic development spends his time searching the web on his phone for opportunities to work.
I know it's going to be difficult finding a job, finding education at the beginning, but I'm hopeful that in the long run we're going to be able to engage in this society here and be a constructive part of this community here.
Waleed's second daughter, newly married, and her husband also accompanied the family from Iraq. Both are pharmacists. They are spending time polishing their resumes, looking for jobs, and both are excited and optimistic about beginning the pursuit of their American dream.
Having a house, own house, yeah.
Having your own house.
Yeah,
that will be great for us.
And children?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, of course. That.
Now we'll be able, without fear, without being prejudiced by your color or religion or that, people just take you because you're a human being. This is what I feel great about this country.
The refugee issue, immigration, and federal funding are among the issues we talked about this week with Governor John Hickenlooper.
Banning refugees and turning your back on especially refugees who helped our military efforts in places like Iraq or Afghanistan, risked their lives to make sure that we didn't lose the lives of our military personnel. If we turn our backs on those refugees, it makes our soldiers more vulnerable, more at risk all over the world, because that word gets out. Same sense if we begin deporting, picking up and detaining and deporting, the whole immigrant community is not going to, they're not going to testify and give witness when they see a crime. They're going to be too fearful and too scared of coming out of the shadows. So you end up making yourself a lot less safe just through your actions.
When we look at immigration, the administration now is threatening counties, cities, states that don't cooperate with federal authorities in enforcing immigration laws, talking about, well, we could withhold federal funds. Are you concerned about that in Colorado?
You know, I was concerned. I'm less concerned 2 weeks ago when I went for the National Governors Association to Washington for that long weekend. And on Sunday night, we had a state dinner in the West living room of the White House with the President, the First Lady, and the Cabinet. And the President, and then we had an hour with the President the next morning. And on both occasions, the President was absolutely open. He's saying, we are not going to detain people and deport them who are not connected with serious crimes. Well, when he said that, I took a deep sigh of relief, because all of our cities, everyone I know, when I was mayor of Denver, I know Mayor Hancock now, if somebody's guilty of a serious crime, we're going to deport them, right? We work in partnership with the federal government to make sure that dangerous criminals are deported as quickly as we can get them out of here. No question about that. So I think the rumors and the fear that kind of got fanned, I'm not sure exactly where it came from. I think some of the briefings that came out of the White House, some things have been said, but the President was absolutely specific. We're not going to detain and deport people unless they're connected to serious crime.
But you're not concerned that you're going to lose federal funds if you don't cooperate?
No. What I keep hoping is maybe this will be the catalyst, and we can finally, once and for all, get a compromise on immigration. Let's fix it.
Let's talk about health care. A lot of provisions right now. The House may vote as we speak on this. Are you concerned that contracting this Medicaid expansion is going to have a detrimental effect on the economy, on people's health care, on the exchange?
Yeah, I worry about if you seriously contract or roll back so that fewer people have health care coverage, fewer people qualify for Medicaid, that affects our workforce, it affects the fabric of our society, and I think in the end it costs us more money, and that's the million-dollar question there. I've talked to a number of governors and a number of Republican governors. I talked to John Kasich last week, and most of them are pretty much united in saying, hey, we're not going to go backwards. We don't want to roll back coverage. We want to maintain quality. We want to at least maintain coverage, and we want to control costs. And I think that's the magic that we got to be looking for, is how can the federal government and the states work together so that we begin to find synergies. Let's get together and get some Republicans and Democrats, sit down with some congressional representatives from both parties, and figure out how to make this system work. I mean, it's a big, complex system. It doesn't mean we can't improve it. What we are doing right now is putting our shoulder to the wheel on our own as one state, trying to say, all right, what are those places where we are absolutely going to reduce the cost of Medicaid and reduce the inflation of medical costs. This last year, we actually, for the first time in my knowledge, certainly the first time in the 6 years I've been governor, our per person cost of Medicaid was flat, actually down a little bit. We think this year it's going to decline. We're going to reduce it. That's what we should be focusing on.
Let's go to transportation. The bipartisan bill and the governor want to raise our taxes, by billions of dollars over a number of years, to pay for I-70 and I-25 expansion. Bottom line, that's probably not going to get through the legislature. What's the alternative here?
Well, we'll see. I think that nobody wants to raise taxes. But if you look at what the costs are of doing business, right? We are the #1 economy in America right now. U.S. News and World Report made that selection about 10 days ago. #1 economy. All right, so that's great. What's that mean? It means that we are growing at a prodigious rate, a very fast rate, and if we don't invest, we're gonna suffocate on our own success. We have to compete with our neighbors. And it's not that we're not creating welfare, we're not wasting the money. We'll make sure that how every penny is spent is clearly accounted for, so the public knows what they're getting. But if we're not willing to make investments, and just like any business, we borrow money or we raise our prices to be able to make investments in capital. That's what a state has to do, and transportation is one of the most important things to do that.
But you're going to raise sales tax across the state, and people are pretty upset about that.
Well, but if you go look at the condition of our roads across the state, there are an awful lot that aren't in very good shape.
Well, and that's one of the issues that the rural folks are having. They're saying, yeah, everybody's talking about I-70 and I-25, but here the state's economy, rural economy, runs on these roads that are in total disrepair, and they think they're getting short end of the stick here.
But so they haven't read the bill yet, right? So this bill is actually going to put more money to maintenance, specifically earmarked for maintenance, than we've ever seen before. The increase we're talking about will put a significant amount of money to maintenance so that we can not only do what we've been doing, but do a better job of it.
Governor John Hickenlooper, thanks for taking the time.
You bet.
That's our Insight for tonight. Thanks for joining us. I'm John Ferrugia. Good night.